Hi, good evening, Namaskaram. I am Rucha Kulkarni and I'm going to be the moderator for tonight's webinar, which is about manufacturing post-COVID, survival to revival for SMEs by our very own COE member, Sachin Ghanpati sir. Okay, someone's speaker is still on. Yes, thank you so much. So I welcome all of you. I welcome the office bearers of PMA, the representatives from partnering organizations. I don't think we have any. We have Nitin Jundarkar sir, who will introduce us to Triple IE. I also welcome our participants, which includes the non-members and the members. I welcome our speaker for the day, Sachin Ghanpati sir. I welcome all the leaders of COE. And unfortunately, none of the VPs are here today, but I'm sure they'll watch the recorded session later on. So just before we actually formally jump into the session, for the uninitiated, I can see some new members and some regular members also. Some people who want to probably seek membership. I just heard someone's conversation saying they want to be a part of the PMA. So for the uninitiated, I'm just going to briefly introduce what PMA is all about. It's actually a 45-year-old independent trust and public organization which was formed by eminent visionaries with the only idea of promoting the exchange of knowledge, experience, and ideas of sound management principles in practice. So, a lot of effort goes into providing a wide range of services to improve the standards of management practices throughout all the sectors. So, you can always, anytime, visit the website. You can see a variety of webinars and seminars that we hold regularly. So there's a wide range of conferences, trainings, lectures, discussions, meetings. Some of them are paid, some of them are free, and the details regularly get posted on the website. So for the youngsters or for the new people who are participating today, why should you become a member of the PMA? So this is a great place to network. So I have personally seen people from here, from this platform, growing professionally and personally as well. It is very easy to become a member. All you have to do is log on to the website and just pay some nominal fees. If you need help with that, even the office bearers can help you with those details. But this is a great platform to network, to grow yourself, to grow individually also, and to grow professionally also. So, without much further ado, I'm now going to move forward and I'm going to request Triple IE is Indian Institute of Industrial Engineering, and I'm going to ask Nitin Junarkar sir to please brief all of us about Triple IE so that we can have a better insight into it.
Okay, very good. Good evening to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Huh.
Yes.
It's my privilege and I'm pleased to introduce the activities of Triple IE, that is Indian Institution of Industrial Engineering, and this institution, it has got a Pune chapter also. So I'm pleased to introduce the activities of Triple IE. On behalf of the chairman of Pune chapter of uh, Triple IE, Mr. M.B. Kulkarni, this introduction I am giving about the activities. Indian Institution of Industrial Engineering, it was founded in 1957 by eminent business leaders, top management personnel, academicians, and practitioners of industrial engineering in the country. National headquarters of this institution, it is at Navi Mumbai. The Indian Institution of Industrial Engineering, it is ISO 9001 2015 certified, and it is a non-profit organization and a registered society for propagating the profession of industrial engineering in India. It is also a registered public trust under the Bombay Public Trust Act 1950. It is dedicated to the advancement of industrial engineering education and practice, to the application of such scientific knowledge to assist in the management of all happenings. The Triple IE evolved a graduateship examination in industrial engineering since 1971. Triple IE thus offers opportunities to pursue higher studies in industrial engineering to those who do not possess the undergraduate degree. About the activities of Pune chapter, it was started in 1970 and it has well equipped their own office at KK Market, near Pune Satara Road. Pune chapter is one of the vibrant chapters among 30 chapters of III all over India, and it has its own website. Of course, that I will share with all the members. Pune chapter always received very good support from industries which are in and around Pune. Pune chapter also provide guidance on non-commercial basis to industries and educational institutions. Now, few glorious achievements and the activities which are done by III Pune chapter, those for the benefit of everybody's knowledge, I'm just sharing with you. Pune chapter organize and conduct national level convention. They conduct national level seminars on ergonomics, value engineering, productivity, etc. They also conduct productivity case study contest every year for last almost more than 20 years in four categories of the industry, that is large scale industry, medium scale, small scale, and even among the students also. On Foundation Day, that is every year 27th January, they conduct presentation of awards winning case studies and felicitation of award winning entries of productivity case study by the prestigious trophy. But this III Pune chapter also organize and conduct one-day training program on SCM, most ergonomics, lean manufacturing for the industries as well as for the educational institutions. III organize webinars on various industrial and management techniques. Student chapter, it is established at Vishwakarma Institute of Technology as well as Bivrabai Sawant College of Engineering in Pune. Over 400 students appearing from Pune for the graduate examination in industrial engineering. These are means guidance is being given by III Pune chapter. Guidance for the subjects and projects to the students appearing for graduate examination, that is another activity. And last but not the least, library of technical and management book, that is also well equipped, and the service can be obtained for those who are especially going for industrial engineering courses. So we consider and expect long association for such technical events on need basis. And on behalf of III, I welcome all the audience for today's webinar. Thank you very much. Over to you, Rupa.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. So this today's webinar is in collaboration with Triple IE. We just heard the introduction of Triple IE, and now I'm going to request Sachin Nagpure sir to kindly introduce our COE of Business Excellence. Nagpure sir, can we please hear it from you?
Yes. Yeah.
Are you
Good
traveling? Are
evening
you
to all. Actually,
commuting?
uh, can I can you hear me? Hello.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Good evening
Yes.
to all. Good evening to all. Actually, so you know that there are different verticals for the Pune Management Association. One of that vertical is Center for Business Excellence. So today's webinar is conducted on the behalf of Center of Business Excellence. So I'm just introducing this center for all the today's attendances. So PMA Center for Business Excellence strive to assimilate, maintain and share knowledge and experience in the various methodologies used for improving the business processes. We are focusing on the two prominent things actually. Promote sharing and learning of various process business excellence methodologies across industry and academic. And second is provide hand-holding support in applications of these methodologies in to address specific business processes and challenges. Our COE has three verticals. One vertical is process improvement methodologies. Second is manufacturing digitalizations and industry 4.0. And third one is the project management. We kick off our activities about 2 months back, and this is the third webinar we have arranged. We plan to organize several webinars in these verticals at least once in a month. So keep visiting PMI website for information on such useful webinars from all COEs of PMA. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate the fact that even though you're commuting or traveling, you took time off to specially make an appearance over here and introduce your COE for us. So I am now going to jump to the actual event, and I'm going to introduce you to the other Sachin, Sachin Ganpati sir, who is the speaker for the day. So he actually heads the COE for Business Excellence, and his choreograph is nothing but illustrious. So I couldn't find a better word to introduce him. So he is a COEP alumnus, and he also went on to work in as a manufacturing professional. He specializes in a variety of fields such as quality management, operations excellence, Six Sigma, and the list is certainly not exhaustive. So because I have a time crunch, I couldn't include all his qualifications, certifications, but he's definitely a speaker over here. He's a regular speaker at other events also, at other webinars also. So, sir, it is a privilege to hear from you. And today's topic particularly is very interesting because this is something which has been troubling the manufacturing sector for a very long time. I think the pandemic has really hit India in a not in a worse way. So, I think we are all eager to hear from you. So, without any further delay, we would hand it over to you, and I think you can share your screen with your presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rucha, for the nice and elaborate introduction. Good evening,
The pleasure
friends.
is all mine.
So, what I will do is I will switch off my video. I think just to conserve some bandwidth, and I will share my
Yes,
screen. Yeah, I
yes,
hope
will do.
all of you are able to hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. In case we cannot, then please post in the chat box so
Sure,
we'll be notified.
sure.
Right. Yeah, now we can see. Now we can see the presentation.
Great,
Yes.
great. Thanks. Great. So, like Rucha mentioned, we all are going through a very, very difficult time for the last almost 2 years now. All the industries are impacted, and all are really forced to think differently and innovate, right? And manufacturing sector in particular is impacted very severely because of its inherent nature, because of its upward linkages with the supply chain and the downward linkages with the distribution chain, right? So the impact is huge, and SME in particular is impacted very badly because of its heavy dependence on the labor, heavy dependence on the human skills, manual operations, the state of the machinery that they use, the state of the manufacturing tools that they use, their capacity to invest into the manufacturing capital and machine tools, and issues around the cash flow. But the good news is there is a focus from government on the SMEs to grow. They are coming out with lots of schemes, policies, and financial help. So what we really need to do as organizations or SME organizations is to prioritize and focus on what we want to achieve and use the right approaches to accelerate this transformation, not only to recover and restore, but to revive and take the benefit from this huge opportunity that post COVID, the COVID is giving us. And how is exactly what we'll discuss today in the next 30-40 minutes. I had received a set of questions during the registration process. I have tried to cover answers to most of those questions in the presentation. However, if you still have questions, please feel free to post the questions in the chat box, and I will be happy to answer you those questions in the Q&A session. So they say every crisis comes with seeds of opportunities, and so is the case of COVID. So we are going to look at the silver lining of this COVID-19 cloud, right? So what are the opportunities for India? As we all know, China is the global manufacturing hub. 20% of the GDP of China is coming out of export, and that is equivalent to entire GDP of India, right? And however, if you look at the recent times, China's image is impacted very, very badly because of the recent issue around COVID. China is no more cost competitive, and India has gained soft power because of the vaccine diplomacy and because of India's generous behavior during the pandemic. So, and we already are working on Make in India for the last 4 or 5 years, and that initiative is progressing slowly. So while I say that entire export, which is 20% of the GDP for China, is equivalent to the India's entire GDP, that poses a lot of opportunity for us. 50% of the export of this China is to the non-Asian countries. So obviously they would be looking for some good options to migrate their sourcing from China to some other competitive options to mitigate the risk. And so that again is a opportunity for us. 70% of the export, if you look at their export content, then it is auto parts, phones, accessories, semiconductors, toys, lighting. So India has the capability to manufacture this, or India can develop that capability to manufacture this. So India has a potential of becoming the next manufacturing powerhouse. What and that is what, like I said earlier, we are working as well. We have the target to grow the manufacturing contribution uh, in GDP to good 25%, and so that's the reason why the SME sector is going to get the focus, and that focus is coming through the initiatives like Atmanirbhar Bharat. So what we need to do is adapt to the new normal, but very fast, adjust our operations rapidly, and establish that manufacturing capability that I talked about. If we look at some facts and figures around India manufacturing, like I mentioned earlier, the 2019 number was 60% contribution that was coming from manufacturing in the India's GDP, and it was expected to grow to 25% by 2022. However, this has been slowed down because of the pandemic. And if you look at the SMEs, there are 42 million SMEs approximately, and 45% of the contribution in manufacturing output comes from SMEs. If you look at the total export, 40% of the total export is coming from our SMEs. In the workforce, 40% of the workforce that is working in manufacturing today is working in the SME sector. So SME obviously is going to get a lot of focus that it is really deserving, and that is what we will discuss in the next slides to come. There is one thing that I forgot to mention in this slide is when experts look at the India growing the manufacturing of India, they are talking about focusing on many medium and small players versus paying attention to few big. That is what they call as a string of pearls approach rather than mining the gold. And that is because by augmenting the strength of the existing players, there are lots of benefits that we can get, because the one thing is it would require modest investment. It will create more opportunity for the employment, and there will be supply chain mitigation, risk mitigation for India from external to internal. And that's the reason SME is going to get more focus in coming days. So SMEs have to play a role in fueling this growth and to help India become the manufacturing powerhouse. If we look at the current challenges today, so the challenges are from the all sides. From the demand side, there is uncertainty and volatility in the demand. both in terms of volumes as well as in the product mix. From the supply chain side, there is a huge disruption from the chain side, or the supply side, because they are also part of the manufacturing. There are they are also going through the liquidity and financial pressures. In terms of compliances, as we know, there is a need for frequent sanitization, shift overlaps, provision of PPEs to the workmen, additional health checks that we'll have to do, and contact tracing, etc. So all that is putting a lot of pressure on cost. And also, if you look at workforce availability and workforce deployment regulations, that is also creating huge pressure, and that is all creating a pressure on the six major KPIs of manufacturing, that is productivity, quality, cost, delivery, safety, and moral of the people. So how do we get out of this, restore and grow? I think we should look at other sectors. The other sectors have come out with really unique and innovative changes in their business model, in the way they perform their business, the way they reach their customers, the change in the radical changes in the supply chains, be it entertainment, be it education, hospitality, hotel, or IT. So there is a great level of adoption of the new technologies and adoption to the new normal. We need to learn this from these sectors and overcome the challenges that we have just talked about. The thing is how. Difficult times are difficult because we perceive loss of control, right? And I would like to refer to the work by Stephen Covey in his book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talks about the difficult times and the need to become proactive. So what we mean by being proactive is don't react but respond. And there are two circles that he talks about. One is the circle of concern, that is the things that are not in our control, what we have seen in the earlier slide, all the things that are impacting our business. But the good news is there is a circle of influence, and this circle of influence is the things that we can control. We need to expand our circle of influence, and that is how we can address those challenges and the uncertainty in the business environment and overcome those. There are 4 things that we need though. One is the imagination of the future state. What is that state that we would like to reach, where we would like to reach? Once we have that, then there is a need for the strong desire and determination to succeed. That fire in the belly that I usually like to say it. The third is self-awareness. It is about knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And fourth is conscience or values, a strong set of values, ability to determine what is right, what is wrong, and courage of doing the right things. See, unfortunately, the perception about manufacturing industry is orthodox. There is a lot of reluctance to change. There is huge inertia to change, and that is exactly what we need to change in order to overcome these challenges. So we need to change our mindset, we need to change our behavior, and we need to change our actions. So what is our circle of influence as manufacturing industry folks? As we all know, the manufacturing systems, they comprise of 3 things. One is people, then processes, and then tools and technology. So when you talk about people, it is about it includes all. It is leadership to the workforce and the organizational culture. When we talk about processes, it is about all the activities that we perform to accomplish a task. It could be an admin process like recruitment. It could be a business or transactional process like issuing the material from the stores, or it could be a manufacturing process on the shop floor. And when we say technology, it means the machine tools, the software, the hardware that we use to enable manufacturing. So we need to work on all the three components of the manufacturing systems, and the success mantra is to really make our systems more agile, more flexible, more efficient, and more reliable. So what is agility? Let us try to understand simple definitions of each of those terms. Agility is the speed of response to the customer demands, right? What is flexibility? It is the capability to adapt to the change in the customer requirements. And what is efficiency? It is doing more with less. No, how do we really do more with less resources? And reliability is consistently producing the output of the right quality that is as per the expectations of the customer. All these four attributes or success mantra is applicable to all the components of the manufacturing system. It is applicable to people, it is applicable to processes, and it is applicable to technology and tools. So this will help us to recover and restore, not only do that, but also sustain and survive by meeting the customer demands and grow our revenue and profits. So how do we do that? One thing that we need to remember, it won't happen overnight. If we fall down, we have to get up, we have to walk, and then we run, right? And so is this transformation. It will happen slowly. We will have to focus on specific component in each of the phase. In the recover and restore phase, we need to focus on people, the health, safety, and morale of the people. In the survival phase, we will have to take care of our processes, make them more agile, as I was telling, flexible, more efficient, and more reliable, using principles like lean. And to grow, we need to determine our goal and business objectives for the future and adapt the right technologies to enhance this agility, flexibility, efficiency, and reliability. So this is going to take time, but this is how it will work. So if you look at the growth journey, this is how it will look like, right? So for the restore phase, focus on people, and what we really need is the motivated, empowered, and innovative workforce to survive, processes which are efficient, agile, flexible, and reliable. So this is in addition to the people factor. And to grow from there, we need to enhance this agility, flexibility, efficiency, and reliability by using right techniques. So only technology is not going to take us there. So we have to work on people safety, boost their morale, embrace lean, reduce lead times, improve asset utilization, reduce downtimes, reduce energy cost, eliminate the waste from the processes, and streamline the workflows. And when we have people with the right attitude, good morale, and right capabilities, efficient and standardized processes, then we adapt the right technologies, because there is no point in going for a technology when people are not capable and the processes are not optimized. In fact, they will produce more waste, right? So I'm sorry, there is some disturbance.
Sunil ji, can you please mute your microphone? Sunil ji. Okay.
Thank you. So we start to elaborate each of these. First, we'll talk about people factor, the leadership, workforce, and culture, because this is the most important and critical asset of any manufacturing system. People make the difference, and people is all those three factors: leadership, workforce, and culture. What kind of leadership do we need? We need leaders who love their team, who love their employees, who demonstrate care, and this demonstration of care is also important. Only caring is not enough. We have to demonstrate that you care, and it could be through the regulatory or compliance things like temperature or uh, the oxygen saturation level checking, providing them PPEs, providing sanitization of the workstations, making sure that there is a safe distancing, avoiding crowding, and if possible, supporting the vaccination drive. See, all this is definitely a part of the compliance as well today. But please go beyond compliance. Demonstrate that you care genuinely for your team and your people. Ask about their family members in the morning meetings, for example. And if you don't conduct morning meetings, please start conducting them. Provide counseling in case of trauma. So what all I mean here is demonstrate that care. The second is the trust. That is nothing but walking the talk, being consistent and fair. People should believe what you say is what you mean. Maintain the transparency. Explain the logic of your decisions. Why are you taking certain decisions? The decisions could be in favor of people, or they could be may not be in favor of people, but they may not still like it. But as long as they know why, they would at least trust you. And you need to communicate this constantly to people. We need to communicate them why are we doing something, what we are doing, right? So whatever we are doing, what is the reason why are we doing something, what is that we are trying to accomplish, and most importantly, what is in it for them, so how it is going to benefit them. Sometimes you have to, while becoming transparent and talking about weaknesses, you have to be also vulnerable and talk about your own weaknesses, but also make sure that you talk about your plans to overcome those weaknesses. It could be for you as a leader, or it could be for you as an organization. The other important thing is establish performance standards. Make people accountable for what they do. Do not hesitate to take tough calls as far as people are concerned, and the decisions if required. For further growth, like I said, the important attribute of leadership is that fire in the belly, the hunger to grow, and the growth mindset, being open to the next technologies. Recognize what you know and seek help for the things that you don't know. And this is going to be really, really difficult for many people. And that is the reason I'm specifically mentioning this, right? So seek for help, and seeking for help is also one of the very, very important attributes of the leadership. So go for mentoring if it is a help which is required on the leadership level. Go for consultants if it is something that is required in terms of technical or functional domains, but don't hesitate to ask for help. Gone are the days when you used to say, okay, I know it all, I know my processes, I know my product, and I know everything. So we have to get away from that thinking process. The leaders, most of the SME leaders, they are busy in operational firefighting, and unfortunately they take pride in that. However, to grow, we need to focus on the employee development. We need to really develop our people, empower them, and delegate the routine operations, so that as a leader you can focus on networking, branding, exploring avenues for growth. Remember, the one man army won't help in the long run. I know that is the situation in most of the SMEs today, but that is something that we have to think of and make a plan to slowly develop your organization over a period of time. And as I said earlier, we need to really make sure that we become redundant. This is funny, but a good leader always makes himself redundant. So that means he empowers his team, allows them to take decisions, supports them in decision making, and he finds time for the things that he needs to do. So he can focus on current and future plans. Then the next thing that he should do is considering the goal where we would like to reach. We need to require identify the skills which are required. Then map the skills with the current employees, find out the gaps, and then prepare a plan for cross-skilling or upskilling or reskilling of the people. That is very, very important. for the growth journey that we are talking about. Then we come to the culture part of it. Leaders should build the culture which is customer focused, culture of ownership and accountability, and continuous improvement and innovation. The He should develop the culture in such a way that people or employees they can express freely, fearlessly. Because remember, great ideas come from anywhere. They can't come from anywhere. So encourage them to share ideas. Employees should feel that their opinions matter. So listen to them. So they should feel that they are heard. And there are things like employee suggestion schemes, and then recognize the ideas that you get from those schemes. And recognition does not mean necessarily all the time you should recognize them monetarily. Even a pat on the back is also sufficient many times, but that feeling of recognition is very very important, that they are valued, their opinion matters, their ideas matter, and they are part of the big system. That is the feeling that is important for the employees to retain, as well as to motivate them. Also to encourage them to question the status quo, to do the things differently. And in case they disagree with something, they should be positioned to disagree with their supervisors, with you. uh, and that is how we don't want only yes sir kind of employees in the organization. If we need to really build our organization, we need to really cultivate this part of the cultural aspect as well. The next thing is employees come from different backgrounds, ages, gender, and regions, speaking different languages, and we should respect each other. We should make sure that there is a representation for all those diversity factors. They listen to each other, they accept and respect the differences, and make sure that everyone feels included. There is a great value in diversity. As far as innovation is concerned, building the culture of innovation and continuous improvement, it is very important to drive the fear away from minds of people. Whatever ideas they come out with, accept that all the ideas may not work, right? But we learn from those ideas. The message that we should pass on should be, it's okay to commit mistakes, but the thing is, don't hide them. The moment you recognize and realize that you have made the mistake, accept it and communicate it to the supervisor. And most important is, no same mistake again. Don't repeat the mistakes. So because while we allow all this, we should always make sure that our customer is never ever inconvenienced because of our internal problems. So we need to make sure that all the freedom that we have given to the employees, the empowerment that we are giving to the employees, that is not adversely impacting the customer in any way. Process discipline, safety, quality mindset, etc., they are all essential ingredients by default. So I'm not spoken much about them. However, I don't really intend to undermine the importance of those factors of the culture. So I have spoken a lot about people, and because it's really important. Remember, the smartly engineered processes or the state of the art technology, it won't give us the results if we do not have right people on board and right culture in place. So that's the reason I have spent so much of time on speaking about this people factor. Then we come to the process. Like I said, the mantra of success, which is agility, flexibility, efficiency, and reliability, that is applicable to all components of the manufacturing system. So how do we make our processes agile, flexible, efficient, and reliable? As we discussed earlier, agility is responding faster to the customer demands, and efficiency is doing more with less resources. So how can we make our processes fast, and we can reduce the lead times? How do we reduce the lead times? Eliminate waste in the processes. What are those wastes? Oh, there are different types of wastes, and maybe you are aware of it, and it could be there could be one separate session on those wastes. But the waste is there in the waiting time or idle time because the line is not balanced. Waste is in waiting for parts, waste is in waiting due to machine breakdowns, wastage is due to motion because of the poor layouts. Waste is in the motion because of the poor workstation designs. Then waste of the time in finding tools because 5S is not implemented. Waste is unnecessary support is also a waste. Waste of time because of the non-availability of the skilled people. Many times this happens on the shop floor, right? We can't man a machine because the person with required skills is not available, and that again creates delays. And that is also something that we need to take care, by skilling, upskilling, and cross skilling, like I was talking earlier. Then there is waste due to defects, inventory, or production, or processing. So there are several tools, which are listed here, which can help you to reduce waste, create better flows, make the process more agile and efficient, and it will reduce the cycle time, and the process can be more agile. How can we make the processes more flexible? We talked about agility and efficiency. We talk about flexibility now. As we have discussed earlier, capability to respond to the change in the customer demands is flexibility. And this is the scenario that we really face on a day-to-day basis. There is huge change in the customer demand volumes. There could be changes in the product mix. The customer wants product B in place of product A, and that creates lots of problems. And we really struggle to meet those demands. So we can use different lean tools to do this. The the delay in differentiation, delayed differentiation, what they call is, or delaying the differentiation in the processes as much as you can really provide you that flexibility so that you can really address to the proliferation in the parts and mix in the parts or products. Develop employees with the multiple skilling or cross skilling. This will provide us the flexibility in deployment of the workmen on the different workstations as per the need of the day. The next important thing is reducing the changeover times or setup times by using techniques like SMED. This will allow us to take care of the fluctuation in the product mix, so we can quickly change over from product A to product B. And another tool that is very important for flexibility is the standardized operating practices. Now, this will provide us flexibility in deployment of the workforce with more ease, because there is a set of operations which are standardized, and with less efforts you can train a person and he can work on that workstation if your processes are standardized. For reliability in the processes and to improve on the quality or consistently produce the product quality, what we need to do is set all the 4 M's to the 0 defect condition. What are those 4 M's? One is man, second is machine, third is material, and method. When it comes to man, I think I would again go to the mindset. It is the quality mindset which is very important as far as man or people are concerned. So getting away from that chalta hai attitude, that is very, very important. People should take pride in what they do. They should be made aware of implications of bad quality to the customer. And this is simple yet very, very effective. I have seen people, you probably know that there is a theory X and theory Y. And theory Y believes that people don't come to the work to spoil something. So inherently and genuinely, they come to work to produce something good. It is on us as a management to make sure that we make our processes so robust that they don't commit mistakes. And in case they do, if you really tell them what is the impact that defect has on the final quality of the product and how it is badly impacting to the customer, it really has a impact on changing the mindset of the person who is working on that workstation. That is the practice that we followed in my organization, exhibiting the defects on the workstations which are related to that particular workstation. follow the simple principle of I will not accept defect, I will not produce defect, and I will not pass on any defect to the next station. If people develop this mentality and quality mindset, our job and producing quality product is going to be really really easy. We also need to train people to make sure that we get a right quality product apart from the mindset. So that was about the first M. The second M is material, right? So have right processes in place to verify right quality of the material so that you don't produce waste. The next M is machines. So maintain your machines well so that they do not produce bad quality, and we should thrust more on the preventive maintenance rather than breakdown maintenance to reduce the downtimes. Last term, which is the methods, we should standardize them, as I said earlier, and build quality into the processes with with techniques like fail safing. Use implement process inspection and train your employees for the problem solving techniques. This is one of the very very weak areas that I see in the many organizations. So employees also need to be trained for problem solving, and those could be very simple techniques like 5 Is or 7 steps or 8D, what they call, but they should be really trained to uh, make sure that they solve the quality issues as and when they arise. While we do all those efforts for the agility, flexibility, we also should watch for cost of conversion, because while we are working on those techniques, we should not lose our attention and focus on cost. Many of these techniques will help us automatically to reduce the cost, because working on agility, flexibility, that is going to reduce cost. But there are also some specific techniques to make our processes more efficient and cost effective, and those could be monitoring the and controlling the OEE, that is the overall equipment effectiveness, uh, improving the productivity, reducing downtime, monitoring and controlling the energy consumption per unit of production. All that is going to help us to reduce the cost of conversion, because at the end of the day, bottom line is very very important. While we do all this, ultimately it should impact on the bottom line. So we have talked about people, processes. How do we go to the next level from here? The answer is adapt right technologies. Industry 4. My friends, this is no more a buzzword or hype today. Businesses that have done well in the pandemic are the businesses that had their basics right and who had adapted the new technologies. And good part is there is no one definition of industry 4. No one technology is called as referred as industry 4. As you can see from this slide, there are different technologies which are available, which can further enhance the effectiveness of the tools that we talked earlier. And I have tried to map those different lean tools and the industry 4 technologies which are available. For example, if the technologies like Internet of Things, the cyber physical systems, big data, cloud computing, edge computing, that is going to help us for the lean tech tools that are listed here in this slide, like bottleneck management, OE monitoring, etc., etc. Artificial intelligence, that is going to help us for building better coyotes or fail-safes, going to help us in predictive analytics, in condition-based monitoring, so that we reduce our downtime, and we actually take care of the machines before the problems occur. Then virtual reality or augmented reality, that is something which is very very useful for multi-scaling or upscaling, good for dynamic SOPs, helping the people to diagnose the problems better, break down failures, because the major thing that is happening today is we are losing the expertise and experienced people uh, who have gained a lot of expertise in the functionals, different functions. And if we really need to take care of that, we have to adapt these technologies so that this becomes easier, even in the absence of experienced people. Then there are techniques like simulation, which will help for design validations. That will ultimately help us to uh, launch our new products faster, layout optimizations, line balancing, so list of things. Cobots, for pick and place kind of operations to improving the productivity and reducing the cycle time, inspection of quality. Then the techniques in additive manufacturing for prototype manufacturing, service part support, um, jigs and fixtures manufacturing. So there is whole lot of technology that is available in industry 4 or digital transformation, and we need to adopt the right one depending on what matters to us. Please don't do this because everyone else is doing this. Identify what is your problem that you are going to solve, what is the problem before you, and then adapt the right technologies. Here are some guidelines on adapting new technologies. Like I said, it is begin with the end in mind. So it whatever technologies that we select, that should be aligned with the strategic objectives that we have for the organization, right? So based on what we would like to achieve 4 years from now, 5 years from now, we should select the right technology. It should be very clear as to what is our focus. Is it internal, which is improving the operational efficiency, or is it external? Are we interested in using the technology for reducing the time to market or improving the customer experience, etc.? Once you do that, determine the priorities and get buying in from all the stakeholders, and then choose the right technology. Here again, seek the expert help. You may not be expert of all the things, so do not hesitate to seek help from outside. And most important is go for scalable and flexible solutions. Again, something that you are going to do and spend money on should be useful, in terms of scalability, because we are going to grow, right? And that is why we are discussing all this. And it should also provide us the flexibility. Choosing right partners, engaging all the stakeholders, I talked about it earlier. And as I said, think big but start small, right? So you should have a vision as to what is that we are trying to achieve 5 years from now, and based on that you can select the right technology. You can start small. You can't go and implement it across the factory floor. Start small, test it, validate it, and then slowly start deploying horizontally. Adopt a phased approach, so that will have another benefit. So the benefits from the phase that is implemented, they should really fund the next phase. If you follow this kind of approach, then it is going to be very, very beneficial as far as growth is concerned. The question that I hear often is, all this is fine. I mean, I have heard a lot, talking about a lot of things. Those are all things that we really hear in big organizations. Is that really applicable to SMEs? Is that applicable and viable for SMEs? And the answer is yes, a big yes. Because in fact, smaller can be smarter sooner than the bigger organizations. Because you have the benefits like lean organization, you already are thin, right? And there is no bureaucracy so the decision making is faster. You have people who are flexible, they can really learn faster. There is a freedom for work for the operators. They are very good in dealing with the exigencies, uh, so that implementation would be faster and the payback also would be faster. So what is important is really change in mindset, that yes, it is applicable and it is viable for us as well. Because we do not want to stay as MSME forever, right? We would not like to do that. So if we have to continue, if you continue doing what we were doing yesterday, we will continue to get what we were getting yesterday. So we need to change our mindset, think big, dream big, and then take decisions to bring that into the reality. And I'm sure if we do all this, India will soon become a global manufacturing powerhouse. So the question is, I will open the forum now for the questions. I will be happy to help you. And I thank you,
Yes.
Rucha, and all my COE members, all the um, part- partnership organizations, and PMA particularly for providing me this opportunity. Now I would be happy
Thank you,
to answer the
sir.
questions. I hope I'm on time, right? Rucha?
Yes, totally, absolutely. You're absolutely on time. And I already have a wonderful feedback from a lot of people in the comment section also. Before we move any forward, I'll just take only a minute to introduce, to just announce about our upcoming programs, because towards the end, the numbers really start dwindling off. So on 20th September, which is a Monday, we have a session on innovation and women. On 21st September, we have a session on memory training. On 24th, we have a session on psychogeometrics. And on 28th, we have a session on AI in preventive maintenance. Do show your participation in large numbers. And Bimal sir, can I please request you to summarize this session for us today for the benefit of everybody? And then we will move on to the question and answers.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Rucha, for this opportunity. Sachinji, I think your presentation was no less than a mini guide, I would say, or a shorter version of a handbook for those who are really looking for not just surviving but also growing their organization, their business, or in respective industry post pandemic. And I am assuming that we are almost done with the pandemic, although the threat is still looming large. But I think the guidance from you has come at a very very right time. You covered entire gamut of organization, right from technology to people to the behavior. Also, you covered the customer part of it, how things are changing in or, on their end, supply chain, and not to forget the leadership aspect, which is very very important. Uh, you also talked about reskilling, and yesterday when we celebrated engineers day, and when we had a panel discussion, in one of my final questions to the panelists, all the panelists actually stressed a lot on reskilling, because the that topic was of course on emerging technologies, and how it's going to fall out in next 10 years time. I think most of the panelists also stressed on that, and you reiterated that point very well. You were very very meticulous in explaining the 4M and the 5S, one of my favorite subjects. So thank you so much. I think I thought that I know a little bit about it, but your explanation was definitely bringing very different perspective. I cannot agree with you when you said the businesses or industries who have survived during this pandemic, they have survived only because their basics were right. I strongly believe that pandemic has taught us one very very important thing, and that important thing is that those who survived during this pandemic, they survived only because of their immunity, and they had that immunity because their basics were right. So I'm kind of relating that to what you just said. Initially, in the beginning, you mentioned, you brought out a lot of numbers, talked about the number of SMEs that we have in the country, and the other numbers that you shared. I think it shows your deep interest and very good research on the subject. So thank you so much for that. I just want to add one sentence on that. Although we have so many millions of SMEs, registered with our industry at a federal level, we also have MSME industry at certain states, not in all the states, but of course some of the states have a very clear focus on MSMEs. We also have very large nationwide organizations like CII and FICCI. uh, I think something that needs to be done. We also have organizations like MCCIA, for example. They are specially built to help out industry, and not to forget PMA. I think a program like this and a speaker like you definitely can come to the rescue. So those who are really looking forward to find their headwinds and also get the tailwinds to not just survive but grow should definitely get in touch with you. Thank you so much, Sachinji, for a very
Thank you.
very insightful presentation. Thanks a lot, and thank you, Rucha. Back to you.
Thank you, sir. So I already have a lot of positive feedback from all these. Certain triple IE members also joined the session a little late, but they are also very thankful for today's sessions. Do we have any questions? I personally have a question, but
Yes.
if anybody else wants to go first, they can. I can always share the dais, or can I go ahead with mine first?
Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
I'll ask my, yeah. You mentioned about this about this thing about restore, survive, and revive. So there were three stages. So, considering the current uncertain pandemic, situation, because now we are already predicting a third wave, and nobody knows what time frame are we looking at. So, when you say restore, survive, and revive, what time frame are we looking at, or
Eh,
how does an SME actually decide upon this?
uh,
Because this is
I
a very tricky
I know, I know.
situation.
Good question.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question.
Yeah.
And the answer is again, it depends on the culture of the organization and the speed at which they are moving, right? Because
Right.
depending on the size of the organization, because of the inherent DNA of the organization, because some organizations they are really working on several things very fast. Some of them are very slow in response. But there is no one unique, no one standard answer as to what should be the duration for the first phase, what should be the duration for the second phase. But I think the time for the first phase is already gone, right? So the recover and restore. So that is something we are going through for the last 8-10 months. People are taking most of the care, but if they are missing out on certain things, they should definitely address those things on any of the components of the system. But I think now the time that they parallelly work on improving the processes as well as thinking about the future and the technologies that they would like to adapt, and that is going to be a phase which is going to be a little longer, maybe a year or two. But again, it's not something which is very standard answer for every SME.
Right. I think there cannot be a standard answer,
Yeah.
considering the complexity of the situation involved. Yeah, and I think you also stressed upon people management. I think, laid a great stress upon people. I mean, out of the people process, and I forgot the third thing, but you laid great stress on people management. So I can see in the comment section also, people do agree with you that if people can be taken care of, then most certainly other two factors will automatically sort of fall in, or at least we can believe that they will fall into place.
Right. If they say that if you build trust, even the ordinary people can bring in extraordinary results, right?
Totally, totally.
Right.
So
So
we have
that
a
is
question
that much
from
important.
Zunnarkar sir.
Yes.
Right. So he's asking, according to the predictive models which you stated in the lecture, for how many of the industries, how much time they require from survival to revival? In general, can you give the input?
This is very similar to what you asked. As far as
Right,
predictive models are concerned, uh, teaching the systems, right? We are not really
right,
good in capturing and maintaining the data as on today, and that is true for most of the industries. So I think before we get into their get predictive analytics, first we need to start gathering the data from the current system and watch for that data and study that data, for because all the algorithms or anything in artificial intelligence which is required for predictive models, that is not going to work unless we have enough data and true data, I mean the data that we can trust. Unless we have that system data in the system, that is not going to work. So once you start implementing those, it takes any time between 6 months to 1 year to really build right models, predictive models.
right, right.
Okay,
We
thank
have
you, sir.
another
Thank you.
question
Nice.
that,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah, thank you, Zunarkar sir. So, Biman Gandhi sir is asking a question that one of the things that's expected from leaders during this tough times is that their communication to the respective workforce to kindle the hope. What, according to you, should be the central message in their communication?
uh, uh, Respective workforce to kindle the hope, yeah, and what according to you should be the central
Yeah,
message in their
central
communication?
message.
Right. I think the message is tough times never last, but tough people do.
Tough people do. Right,
So that is something
right,
that will
right,
really
right.
create help. And if we talk and be transparent, again I said and talked about being vulnerable. I mean, we should show both the sides. We can talk about the good part as well as bad parts. But when we talk about the bad possibilities or things that can go wrong, we also have to talk about the things that we are thinking to countermeasure that. We are trying to,
Right.
what are our plans to really counter those negative impacts, so
Right.
that people feel
Right.
safe and comfortable. And
Yes,
Right. Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Sachinji.
So do we have any other questions? Because I cannot see any questions in the chat box as of now. If not, then we are going to formally end this session with a formal vote of thanks. Tika. Bimal
And
sir,
I
should
would
we
like
go
to
ahead
thank,
and
yeah,
formally?
yeah, before you go do that, I would
Yes,
like to
sir.
thank PMA and Triple I and all the committee members of PMA and office bearers of PMA and Triple I for giving me this opportunity. Thank you. And
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you
The
all
pleasure
the
is all ours.
participants for listening, patient listening.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
thank you
patient listening. But the topic was
already.
so engrossing that I think people didn't really have the heart to leave. So I can see everybody still mostly there. So, sir,
Okay.
I'm going to now present to you the formal vote of thanks. I think a lot of feedback also I have received. Mohanji, could you please mute your microphone for just a minute?
I think he wants to say something. He is the
Ah,
Triple I chairman and he would
yeah,
want
yeah.
to talk about it.
So
Oh,
on
does
the,
he want to say?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very good presentation by Sachin and very good organization by PMA. And we are very much thankful for this first association with PMA, and we'll do further associations for any further activities, and we'll work jointly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin
Looking
sir,
forward.
and all Jinarkar sir, and
Thank you.
office leaders of PMA also. Yeah. Okay.
And
Thank
not to
you.
forget,
Thank
I
you,
would like to
sir.
mention Biman Gandhi sir as well for really
Yeah.
supporting
Yeah.
this process throughout, right from
Yes,
helping us to
yes,
get
I think,
connected with Rucha and also get the right logistics in
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
yes,
My pleasure.
yes,
My pleasure.
yes.
Uh,
So,
Yes, Mohan sir, thank you very much for association. And Biman sir, actually you concluded in a very lucid manner. Hats off to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sachin sir, I formally thank you on behalf of PMA, on behalf of all the centers of excellence also. This was a much needed session, just like yesterday's session. This was, I think, everybody was glued to their to this webinar because what you presented was very in a fluid manner, in a calm, positive manner. And one thing I rarely don't hear anyone saying this, mention this point anywhere is you said the leader should be redundant. So I think I haven't heard any like very rarely do people come up with this statement that the leaders should make themselves redundant. So I think this is also one of the very important takeaways from this session along with all the other things.
That's very
So
true.
sir,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Yes, yes, this point is very important for all the leaders of SMEs also because mostly we see all of them are closely held and people generally don't want to let go of control. But this is a very important point that you made. So, sir, we are really thankful to you. And the best part for me as a moderator, I would really like to thank you because you began on time and you were so well within the time frame that you also concluded very much on time.
Thank you.
So we are very thankful to you, and we're looking forward to many more such collaborations with Triple IE and also with our other organizations, if any. So I think I'm going to go ahead and conclude unless anyone wants to pitch in and add anything at the last minute.
No, thank
Bimal sir,
you.
do you want to add in anything?
No, I think that's all, Rucha. I think it's already 10 past, 12 past 9. So
Yes,
Yeah, we'll
yes,
conclude.
yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
thank
conclude
you.
Thank you.
here.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much.
I must
Stay
thank you
safe, stay
also,
blessed.
Rucha. Thanks to you
Thank
as
you.
well,
So
Rucha.
my
Rucha madam, thank
pleasure.
you.
No,
Thank you,
sir.
Yeah.
Rucha. Thank you,
No,
sir.
sir. All the pleasure is mine. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for the
Okay.
opportunity.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Good evening. God bless.
Yes.
Bye
Stay
bye.
Bye.
safe.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yes.
Good
Stay
night.
safe. Stay blessed. Thank you. Good.